By sunrise, half the city was covered in dust. Engineers crowded the damaged streets, guards blocked the roads, officials shouted orders. Everyone had an explanation. The storm, the old mountain, poor construction, anything except the truth. And then came Ronan Vale. Ronan was 31 years old. He was a storm engineer, and, according to almost everyone who had ever met him, he was also a complete pain in the neck. Ronan had been fired from 3 government positions, not because he was incompetent, quite the opposite. He was one of the best engineers in Avara. The problem was, he had absolutely no talent for pretending that stupid ideas were intelligent. If someone designed a bad machine, Ronan said it was bad. If an official lied, Ronan called him a liar. And if someone important made a foolish decision, well, he usually made sure the entire room knew about it. That morning, he climbed over the rubble and disappeared into the collapsed tunnel. An official shouted after him. Ronan ignored him. A guard tried to stop him. Ronan ignored him too. Inside the tunnel, he crouched beside the fractured stone. He placed one hand against the wall and listened. Not with his ears, not exactly. Ronan had always been able to sense things other engineers couldn't. Tiny vibrations, changes in pressure, movement beneath stone. The Skywell spoke to him in ways he couldn't explain, and what it was saying now terrified him. The mountain hadn't collapsed because of the storm. Something had weakened it from underneath. Someone had been drilling through the mountain. Ronan slowly looked toward the darkness. Someone did this, and nobody believed him. 3 days later, Avara celebrated the Festival of First Rain. Because, apparently, nothing says everything is completely fine quite like throwing a giant festival 3 days after a mountain nearly falls on your city. Thousands filled the central plaza. Musicians played. Children danced. Skyships floated above the rooftops. And at the center of it all stood Queen Mara Ven. Mara was 38, beautiful, composed, intelligent, the kind of ruler who could enter a room and make everyone straighten their backs without saying a word. She had inherited the throne after her brother's mysterious death, and although the people loved her, Mara had never felt entirely comfortable on the throne. Something about the palace had always felt wrong. Too many secrets, too many locked rooms, too many people smiling at her. On that particular afternoon, Mara raised her hand to address the crowd, and then Ronan interrupted her. Thousands of people turned. There he stood, looking irritated, as usual. He pointed toward the ceremonial weather tower. "Turn it off." Mara stared at him. The engineers stared at him. The crowd stared at him. Ronan pointed again. "That machine is unstable." One of the royal engineers laughed. Ronan looked at him. "You're laughing because you don't understand what you're looking at." Mara finally ordered the machine shut down. The technicians obeyed. The tower stopped. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then, boom! Blue-white energy exploded from the tower. The platform cracked. The crowd screamed. Guards rushed forward, and Ronan pulled Mara away from the blast. When the smoke cleared, the ceremonial machine was destroyed, but the queen was alive. Hundreds of people had been standing close enough to be killed, and one irritating engineer had just saved them. Mara looked at Ronan. Ronan looked at the smoking machine. Then he said, "You're welcome." Mara almost smiled. Almost. That night, Ronan was summoned to the palace. He expected punishment. Instead, Mara asked him a question. "How did you know?" Ronan studied her. "Because the machine was lying." Mara frowned. "Machines don't lie." Ronan gave her a tired look. "People build them." The queen said nothing. Ronan walked to the table. He spread out his notes. The collapse. The tunnel, the weather tower, the strange vibrations beneath the city. 3 separate events. But Ronan had discovered something. They weren't separate. He drew 3 points on a map, one at the collapsed tunnel, one at the reservoir, one where several engineers had disappeared. Then he connected them. A perfect triangle appeared. At the center was the Skywell. Mara stared at the map. What does that mean? Ronan looked up. It means somebody isn't attacking the city. They're waking something up. Ronan didn't investigate alone. His younger sister, Tara, joined him. Tara was 19, a map maker, curious, fearless, and unfortunately for Ronan, almost as stubborn as he was. Their third companion was Nia, a former skyship courier who knew every illegal route through the mountains. The 3 entered the forbidden tunnels beneath Avara. The deeper they went, the older the tunnels became. Modern stone disappeared. Metal replaced it. Then even the metal disappeared, and they found something impossible. A city. Not ruins, not a handful of abandoned buildings. An entire city. Hidden beneath Avara, ancient towers rose from underground valleys, stone bridges crossed enormous caverns, waterways disappeared into darkness, and everywhere were machines older than the kingdom itself. Tara stared at the enormous city below. How did nobody know this existed? Ronan didn't answer, because he already knew. Someone had made sure nobody knew. Deep inside the ancient city, they found a control chamber. The walls were covered with enormous maps. Tara slowly uncovered one. Her eyes widened. "Ronan!" He turned. The map showed rainfall, but not normal rainfall. It showed entire regions being deliberately redirected. Rain was being moved away from certain lands and toward Avara. Ronan stared at it. Suddenly, everything made sense. Avara's prosperity, the fertile fields, the endless rivers, the neighboring regions that had slowly become poorer. The Skywell wasn't simply protecting Avara, it was controlling the weather, and the royal family had known for generations. The kingdom's greatest blessing had been built on somebody else's suffering. Meanwhile, another man was becoming more powerful. His name was Ilian Rose, a royal physician, kind, handsome, soft-spoken. Everyone loved him. He treated poor people without asking for money. He remembered children's names. He carried medicine into districts that the government had forgotten. Whenever disaster struck, Ilian appeared. Whenever someone needed help, Ilian was there. He was everything Ronan wasn't. Ronan was difficult. Ilian was charming. Ronan offended people. Ilian comforted them. Ronan questioned everyone. Ilian made everyone feel safe. And perhaps that was exactly why nobody noticed him. Except Ronan. Ronan watched Ilian carefully. Something didn't feel right. Every crisis made Ilian more influential. Every disaster created another reason for the people to depend on him. Ronan couldn't prove anything, but he had learned something a long time ago. When something feels wrong, it usually is. Eventually, Ronan found the missing engineers. Or rather, they found him. Their leader was an old man named Oren. For years, everyone had believed Oren was senile. He wandered around the city talking nonsense, forgot people's names, pretended not to understand simple questions. But when Ronan entered his workshop, Oren looked directly at him and said, "You heard it too." Ronan froze. "What?" "The mountain." Pause. Oren smiled faintly. "You can hear the Skywell." Ronan said nothing. Oren walked toward an ancient machine. Then he told Ronan the truth. The Skywell had a 12-year cycle. Every 12 years, the accumulated energy had to be released, but the royal family had stopped the process. They had forced the Skywell to continue supplying Avara year after year, decade after decade, and now the system was reaching its limit. If it wasn't shut down properly, the mountain would collapse. Not a section, not a tunnel, the entire mountain. Ronan returned to the palace. He confronted Mara. At first, she refused to speak. Then she finally told him the truth. She had known. Not everything, but enough. Her brother had discovered the Skywell years earlier. He had wanted to expose the truth. Before he could, he died. Everyone called it an accident. Mara knew better. She had spent years trying to uncover who killed him, but everyone she trusted disappeared. And then Elian appeared. He seemed different. He seemed honest. He seemed safe. Ronan listened, then slowly said, "That's your problem." Mara looked at him. "You trust people because they make you comfortable, and sometimes the person who makes you uncomfortable is the one telling you the truth." But before Mara could answer, Elian struck. He accused Ronan of sabotaging the Skywell, and he had evidence, documents, engineering reports, witness statements. Everything pointed toward Ronan. The city turned against him. The man who had saved them became the man they feared. Guards came for him. Tara was arrested. Naya disappeared into the underground routes. Ronan escaped through the old tunnels. For the first time, he was alone. And perhaps that was exactly what Elian wanted. Tara eventually managed to send Ronan one thing: a map. It showed a secret passage beneath the royal palace. Ronan followed it. Deep underground, he discovered the truth. The throne wasn't symbolic. It was connected directly to the Skywell. The royal bloodline had been physically connected to the machine for centuries. The ruler didn't merely command the kingdom. The ruler could command the weather. Ronan stared at the mechanism. Then he whispered, "They built the kingdom on a machine and built the throne on top of it." Ronan finally discovered the real mastermind, Elian. But Elian didn't want to destroy Avara. That would have been too simple. He wanted to control it. He believed the kingdom was too corrupt to reform, so he planned to trigger a controlled disaster. Then he would become the person who saved Avara, the hero, the protector, the new ruler. His kindness had never been entirely fake. That was what made him dangerous. He genuinely believed he was saving the people. He simply believed they needed him to rule them. Then the great storm arrived, early. The sky turned black. Lightning tore across the mountains. The Skywell awakened. Buildings shook. Bridges cracked. Rivers changed direction. Avara began collapsing. Mara stood inside the royal chamber. Elian stood opposite her. For the first time, his gentle mask disappeared. He told her the kingdom needed someone willing to make difficult choices. Mara looked at him. "You mean someone willing to make them for everyone else?" Elian smiled. "No, I mean someone strong enough to make them." Ronan descended beneath the city. Water flooded the tunnels. Ancient machines broke apart. The mountain shook around him. Tara guided him through the underground passages. Nia flew above the city, rescuing civilians. Lord Kale finally turned against Elian, and Mara faced the truth about her family. Everything converged on the Skywell. Ronan reached the final mechanism, the third control, the one no king had ever been able to use. He understood what had to happen. The Skywell couldn't be repaired. It had to be destroyed. But if he destroyed it, Avara would lose its greatest source of power, its wealth, its technological advantage, its controlled rainfall, everything. He had seconds. The mountain shook. The mechanism began to fail. Ronan placed both hands against the ancient control and whispered, "Enough." Then he activated it. Blue light exploded through the underground chamber. Ancient gears shattered. Energy raced through the mountain. The Skywell screamed, and then silence. The machine died. For several seconds, nobody knew what would happen. Then, one drop of rain fell. Another. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Rain poured across Avara. Not controlled, not redirected, not commanded by a king. Just rain. Natural rain. The kind the people had forgotten existed. When the storm ended, Mara told the people everything. The truth about the royal family, the truth about the Skywell, the truth about the stolen rain, the truth about the corruption, and the truth about Elian. Avara finally understood. Their prosperity had come at a price. The kingdom had been beautiful because someone else had been paying for it. The monarchy ended. The royal treasury was opened. Resources were sent to the surrounding regions, and the Skywell was left silent. Months passed. Avara changed. The city became poorer, but it became freer. Farmers returned to abandoned fields. Engineers rebuilt damaged bridges. Children played in streets that had once been controlled by soldiers. Nia returned to the skies. Tara became one of the city's most respected mapmakers. Oren finally stopped pretending to be senile. And Ronan went back to work. Of course he did. No throne, no medals, no grand ceremony. Just an old workshop and broken machines. One afternoon, a young apprentice asked him, "Master Ronan, why do people call you the man who saved Avara?" Ronan didn't even look up. "I didn't save Avara." The apprentice blinked. Ronan pointed toward the window. Rain was falling outside. "That did." The apprentice smiled, then asked, "Why did everyone think you were the villain?" Ronan finally looked at him. For a moment, he said nothing. Then the corner of his mouth lifted. A tiny smile. Because I was the only one who kept saying something was wrong." Avara had spent generations believing that a beautiful lie was better than an ugly truth. They trusted the people who smiled. They feared the people who shouted. They mistook politeness for goodness and silence for loyalty. But when the mountain began to fall, it wasn't the sweetest voice that warned them. It wasn't the most charming man. It wasn't the person everyone trusted. It was the difficult man, the irritating man, the man who refused to keep quiet. Because sometimes the truth doesn't arrive gently. Sometimes it knocks. Sometimes it screams. Sometimes it makes you angry. And sometimes the person you desperately wish would stop talking is the only person trying to save you. So the next time someone tells you that a person is difficult, ask yourself something. Are they difficult because they are cruel? Or are they difficult because they refuse to lie? Because in Avara, the man everyone hated was the man who heard the storm coming. And when everyone else finally listened, it was already raining. If you enjoy the story, kindly like and subscribe for more epic and interesting stories like this.